Okay guys, I know this is a long time coming, but I still wanted to talk about Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story that premiered last month. I actually miss Bridgerton so much, and I always look forward to every new season, and as it looks, I don't think we're going to get season 3 until 2024, so this spin-off has been like a well-wrapped gift that'll keep me satiated before next season. And also, as it stands, I actually think Queen Charlotte is better than both previous seasons. Especially season 1. The stakes were higher, the emotions were more turbulent, and the payoff was so much more gratifying. Although Canthony will always have my heart, I think Charlotte and George have moved to the top spot. Okay, after all this praise comes some criticism. I first have to speak, and I think it would be remiss if I didn't speak of the obvious ahistorical plot point of the show, which is the inclusion of racialized people of color in aristocratic Regency Britain. And Queen Charlotte specifically in this story is a racialized black woman. The idea that Queen Charlotte was of black or Moorish descent actually holds some water, and it's actually extrapolated from the research done by historian Mario de Valdes y Cocom. He deduces that she's actually a distant relative from a black branch of the Portuguese royal family, after Portuguese King Alfonso III was rumored to have a Moorish mistress named Madragana, some 500 years before Queen Charlotte's birth. So it's safe to say that the show takes heavy liberties in her racial identity and that of other members in the ton. But that being said, I had initially gotten over this vast ahistorical plot point in season 1 of Bridgerton, so this point isn't as glaringly egregious this time around. And to be honest, it's nice to see a diverse cast in a genre I love so much. Although I can understand why some people, specifically other black people, are deterred from a project like this. Black people should be able to see themselves in historical romances, and I believe a show like Sanditon actually maneuvered this topic very well with the character of Georgiana Lamb. The violent history and racial politics of the British Empire aren't entirely forgotten like they are in Bridgerton, and in Sanditon, it faces those conversations head on. I understand there's a case for postmodernism, but it's hard in a story such as this, when the transatlantic slave trade allowed for the British Empire to grow to the height that it did, and it actually furnished the lifestyles of the very class Bridgerton's characters belonged to. But to speak more of this will turn us in circles, and this argument honestly deserves its own video. So next I want to get into a little bit more of what I disliked about the show. The jewelry. Don't hate me, please, but the jewelry looked a little too costumey and gaudy, and it's because the colors were too vibrant and dense for me. I wish the colors had been more subdued. Sometimes I would just stare at the jewelry and not pay attention to what a character was saying simply because it was so gaudy. But that may be because I lack focus. That's the only critique I had, really, but I had to mention it, as frivolous as it may be, and this is a frivolous show. I've seen people criticize the length of the show and wish that we would have seen more of Charlotte and George's marriage, but I actually think it was the perfect length, and the story was told succinctly. We would have just seen more of the same of George going in and out of his illness and Charlotte sticking by him. And they told that story very well at the beginning of their marriage. Getting more into what worked was that we got to see the extensive royal family. The elder royal children added such a fuller picture of what life was like as the years went on and provided some great comic relief. Charlotte always seemed like such a solitary character, so to see her interact with her family really fleshed her out and provided an explanation of why she seemed so isolated. We saw in her later life how isolated and somewhat frustrated she had become as a result of her marriage with George. She was consumed by her love and care for him and the security of his legacy through bargaining with her children to settle down and provide heirs so his line doesn't die out. We see that she made sacrifices, and she decided to meet him halfway and not try to fix him. Her sacrifice being not paying much attention to her children and being frozen in time. I think the show realistically shows what it's like to love someone through mental illness, not giving up on them and not being dismissive. But that service and strength took a toll, especially as the show accurately depicts real life, where towards the end of King George and Queen Charlotte's lives, they actually did live separately at Kew and Buckingham House. King George's illness became more permanent and caused them to become more violent. There is also evidence to suggest that Queen Charlotte grew incredibly fearful of him. And fear could have also stemmed from the fact that they both missed out on whole swaths of their children's lives. There's also a historical text that points to the fact that Queen Charlotte wasn't as present in her children's lives. But what really took my breath away was the grand proclamation of love that Charlotte professed to George.
You have to tell me that I am utterly alone in this world.
I am a madman. I am a danger. In my mind, there are different worlds creeping in. The heavens and the earth collide. I do not know where I am.
Do you love me?
You do not wish a life with me for yourself. No one wishes that.
George! I will stand with you between the heavens and the earth. I will tell you where you are. Do you love me?
I love you!
I think that line, "I will stand in between heaven and earth, I will tell you where you are," has to be one of the most romantic pieces of dialogue I've ever heard. And I'm a glutton for romance, so I've heard everything. From "you've bewitched me, body and soul," to "if you're a bird, I'm a bird." Usually in Bridgerton, it's the men who have the most swoon-worthy or romantic confessions, and this time it's the woman professing and the man doing the swooning. And finally, moving on to my favorite character in the entire Bridgertonverse, Lady Danbury. We finally see where her tenacity comes from, as she becomes the matriarch of her entire community and family at a very young age. I love the symmetry of that plot point between her and the Queen. Because of that, we understand the friendship that blossomed between them. Also, what surprised me was the affair that she had with Lord Ledger, and I'm so eager to see how she navigates her relationship with Violet now that she knows. Lastly, what I also appreciated was the inclusion of a young Violet and how loving and friendly she has been since she was young. I really want to see her love story with Edmund, and I'm pretty sure if she's anything like her kids, their story was full of drama. Okay guys, that's it for my review. Our next foray into the Bridgerton universe won't be until Colin and Penelope's season, and I'm still holding out that we get it this year. Please comment down below and subscribe. Tell me what you liked, didn't like, and what you're looking forward to in future seasons. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!